Electric Cafe.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Electric Cafe. Today's album review is on Craftspell's second album from 2014 called Nausea. This album came out on Captured Tracks, and Captured Tracks has probably been one of the best labels that I can remember in the last 10 to 15 years as far as releasing music in the forms of indie rock and synth pop and new wave. Like they've had some excellent music from the bands like Wild Nothing, which is one of my favorites in that genre. They've reissued old stuff by like Wake, done some good shoegaze by Dive, also Soft Moon, Thieves Like Us, and then also Craft Spells. Just a fantastic label. And if you're interested in like 80s new wave sound and synth pop, you don't know where to check, and you're not sure which bands that are to your liking, just go through Capture Tracks record label, and you'll find a lot of great music. And I'm sure there'll be a lot that I'll be reviewing in the future on their label, and I've already done some of their music in the past. And Craft Spells is one of those bands that I found back when I was listening to Pandora a lot around 2010, 2011 with their first album, which was called Idle Labor. And this album got a lot of I'd say kind of cult attention at the time, and it kind of being one of the better albums in that kind of style of that sort of new style of synth pop and really kind of catchy and vintage sounding in a way. And then this is their second album, which came out in 2014. Unfortunately, I haven't seen one of their albums come out since. I'm not sure if they broke up or what, but I still really enjoy these two albums. And it's been a few years since I've played this album. Again, they randomly come up on my Pandora still when I do play Pandora, which isn't as often as it used to be. There was a time in like 2008, 2009, I think, when Pandora first started, that I was as far as like having it on cell phones, like when we got Droid phones, 2008 or so, when maybe 2009. But when I was playing Pandora so much back in the day, like maybe an hour or two, during the day, and maybe an hour to 3 hour to 4 hours if I was sleeping. Sometimes I would put on like an ambient station and play some music. And so, nowadays I don't play. I might play an hour or two a week from Pandora. Don't get too much time to play Pandora anymore, but it's kind of. There's a couple times when I play music on Pandora. It's kind of like when I cut my hair, and then when I'm in the shower, and maybe a night where I'm sleeping or I fall asleep to Pandora, but not as often as I used to be. And but yeah, we're gonna get a chance to listen to Nausea. If you haven't heard this album, listen along if you like to, and rate the album with me. Curious to know what your thoughts are. You'll see my score above each track, and I'll come back with you and my overall thoughts.
time to know how alone you are in this world, just to find death is on your mind as you stand still. You realize where you are in a world aged and bright, the moon after the tide. To show for the time I spend alone in my head, the world nobody knows. As I laid still, your wind carried the clouds to feel slow and kind. A moon after the tide. shine my time, certain time.
Alright, so there we got a chance to check out each track on Nausea by Craft Spells, their second album from 2014. You know, back when I was a kid, my parents used to play this 45 a lot. And I still have the original copy. The band was called Left Bank, and the track was called Pretty Ballerina. You may have heard this track. You may have heard your parents play it back in the day, but this album I loved when I was a kid. I probably heard it when I was, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old. I remember it like it was in a strange way, because what it sounds like, it reminds me of a music box. It has that sort of twinkling kind of, I don't know, like if garage rock or indie rock was back in the 1700s in UK, like that's what it would sound like to me. It kind of has this like nostalgic kind of Baroque pop ballad sound, indie rock sound. It's just very unique, and it was such a unique track at the time. I'm sure back in '66 it was even more unique, but back when I heard it in the '70s, probably heard it again, probably as early as I can remember listening to music. My parents used to play this, and this kind of laid the foundation for me liking sort of unique kind of pop sounding and sort of like that dreamy kind of poppy sound that Craft Spells is a great example of. Like, I wouldn't say this is shoegaze at all. It's really more dream pop music. The lead singer sounds like slow dive in a way, and the production, like with more and more listens as you listen to this band. It's been a few years since I played this album, and the production and the depth really grows upon you and really kind of comes out as with more listens. There's a lot of great harmonies in here, a lot of great melodies. And sometimes you don't realize that there's some unique sounds and instrumentation going on because it's covered with that nice glow of a sound and that same sort of it's almost like a globe effect kind of clouding up what you can see inside. Like if sometimes I try to give visual um, analogies because it's sometimes like I think of moods in music like colors. Like if a track is very moody, I think of it in a blue color. If it's sort of cheery, I think of it in a yellow color, maybe, or nostalgic in a yellow color. If it's kind of evil or darker, or it's like red, or maybe like a darker, like a color close to black. If it's rich, I think of like a brown and a red. Like there's colors I think of when I try to visually think of where I sort of picture the background and the landscape of this particular sound or style of music or things like that. Like it kind of helps me to give like a visual, um, give me a visual so I can sort of see it in a way. And this kind of has like a cloudy view over the sound, and so sometimes you can't really tell. Really, you don't. I guess what it is you don't really um, give it a lot of merit because there's such like a cloud over it. And then as you listen to it more, like things kind of come to their service. Obviously, there's if you heard this album and you like this album, then you kind of agree with me that it's very catchy. And this style of dream pop is very catchy, and they do a great job of that. But the depth of the album really comes out over a lot of listens, and you start noticing certain things. So that's a good thing in my view because it as you the more you listen to it, the more you like it, right? So um, the also thing I'll say about this album is there's a carefreeness about this album when you listen to it, and about the style of music from the better bands that do it, like Craft Spells. It's almost refreshing to listen to because I listen to a lot of serious music, and sometimes I feel like I'm over critiquing things and over analyzing things. And sometimes when you hear a band like this, it's just refreshing to hear like a band that is doing such enjoyable and nice listening. It's so gentle, and you love the orchestral feel. Like in the second track, I think you pronounce it Korebi. It's just the hook in it and the sort of strings and the sort of orchestral feel and the violin and the layered vocals and the echo and just a magical track. It's my favorite. Eight and a quarter tracks. Excellent track. My second fact, my second favorite track is Dwindle, seven and three quarters, and then you have the title track and also Laughing for My Life. Those are tied with seven and a half stars. Really hard to choose some favorites in there, and that's sometimes that's hard to what's hard to do about grading tracks in this style because you like the sound, so you're gonna like the like for me it's very like the sound is almost important as you liking the tracks in some ways. If that and it's hard to sort of uh, I would say quantify, but maybe it's hard to explain. Like if you like the sound and you like the production, like you feel comfortable enough to like it as a whole, and you like what they're doing. And that's the style of music you like especially if you like subgenres like dream pop or cold wave or dark wave. Like you like that sort of style and subgenre of post punk or what have you. Well, if you like this style and then you actually hear it and you're like, okay, well, I feel confident that the production is to my level that I like in the sound, then you sort of rate the songs inside of how catchy they are and how they're different. And that can be difficult because not only you're rating the style of music, but then you're rating the sound of the music, and then you're rating the songs. So there's almost like three levels to what I sort of when I rate music. Like I have to like the style of music, right? I have to like the sound of the music, and then the actual songs themselves, right? So I look at things a little probably more in depth than a lot of people do, but that's how I feel like you you sort of um how do I put it? Like that's how you rate and compare bands, right? Like that's a those are some heavy levels to get through to be in my upper echelon of that style of music, right? So that's kind of like the things that I take into account when I rate albums and stuff like that. And it's great when you can hear a sound like this and you love the genre, right? And then you love the sound, and then on top of it, it's just carefree and refreshing and whimsical and just really nice and gentle sounding sounding music. And so when I add up the scores of the album of each track, I give it a 70 out of 100. It's right at the bottom of a very good album, but I think it warrants that. It's a nice, enjoyable album, and there's a couple highlights, but I don't have any track rated under a 6. Like everything's good, and that's what I'm saying about like I like the subgenre, I like the style of music, and then I like the sound. So the sound is there, so everything's over a 6. Everything's good, and then on top of that, because everything is good, and I like the style, then the tracks kind of um, separate themselves in sort of the catchiness or what I like about certain songs. And you know really it's about, especially with about this style of music, it's really about the catchiness because the quality is there. And then the nice thing is there's some songs that really stand out from each other, and that's what helps me sort of grade it. But it is kind of hard to grade sometimes because the catchiness is out there for the most part, but you got to sort of on top of that see what is was actually might be very good or even excellent. And I think 5 tracks out of the 10 here are above 70, so it's right on the edge. And that's why the score's right on the edge of being a good album and a very good album. And I feel like the album is it was it got down to like the last couple songs to see whether it was going to be a good album or very good. And so it's right there for me. So I gave it a 70 out of 100. Curious to know what your thoughts are on this album. I appreciate your time and thanks for your support, and we'll see you on the next video.